Well. Not how I was expecting to meet everybody today. But we have a lot to talk about, good and bad. Really interesting conversation here on how the blame game goes around in this game. There was a lot of fingers to point at between the officials, between Harburg, the offensive line, the defense, just seeming to just not have the intensity that they've had all season, not forcing turnovers. Yeah, and then untimely fumbles. But we'll get into that a little bit. Just to start off, for anybody who's new, I'm Justin Adams. I am the live post-game host here at the Voice of College Football. I'm also on X at _H-Town Husker. And you can also find me over on Cheesy Corn Sports on YouTube, just a little fantasy football channel that me and my buddy run. You can hop in there. We answer start stits. You can call in, whatever. So, yep, just hop on over there if that interests you. But let's get into the game here. So, yeah, 20-17 final. And Shadow Slow coming in with the point that I was wanting to make. And there seems to be some differing opinions with me on Twitter, but here's my take on the officiating, right? So I said in a tweet that I feel that we played well enough to win this game, and it was directly determined by the officiating. Now, when I say play well enough to win this game, I mean without those officiating gaffes, we probably win this game, right? It's not like, oh, we're going to point to the box score and say we had 3 turnovers. No, I firmly believe, and a lot of us do, that without those calls, we are probably going to win this game, which means we played well enough to win the game. I'm sorry. I don't care, what other explanation there is. And then the 3 fumbles that they pointed out, I get it. But like the very last one, incomplete, arm was moving forward, right? Shouldn't have been a fumble. We had the one deep ball where he just completely missed the receiver. That almost acted as a punt. So the turnovers didn't seem quite as detrimental until that one fumble. Of course, that one fumble was the huge one. And then that interception off of a terrible call on that missed PI. Because if that doesn't happen, right, we're not necessarily we're not calling the same play in that situation. So it's not like, oh, they intercepted it anyways, the call doesn't matter. That's not how it works. The play calling changes based on where we're at on the field. So, that PI directly led to the interception as well. So we had one call that led to a turnover and potentially cost 3 to 7 points. And then another one directly led to 7 on the other end. Now, even if, right, they still score a touchdown there, the other calls still affect the outcome of the game, right? It's just, I understand, and I'm not one to typically blame officials. And there are, fingers to point at, all over the field in this game. But it's another point again that they played well enough to win the game, and that was directly caused by the officials. And that's my take on it. And I think it's just an unpopular opinion nowadays for people to want to blame the officials because they know people are probably going to jump on them and stuff like that. But I'm sorry, that was egregious, and the calls happened at the most inopportune time. And then, we're not talking about the Harburg missed face mask because he ended up picking it up the next play, but I literally saw the official mouth to him, he didn't grab it, is what he said to Harburg when Harburg was over there. He said he didn't grab it. And then they showed the replay, and obviously he hooked it with his fingers. I mean, yanked his head around. So, but yeah, I digress. We'll get more into that in a little bit. But let's go ahead and start with the offense. Very, very rough situation we're in right now. We don't have necessarily a backup option. A lot of calls for Chubba Purdy today. That one, so the Chubba Purdy situation's tough, and I kind of, in a way, wanted to see it too. However, I think sometimes we need to be careful of just like calling for change because we want change. I think when one quarterback stalled out so much, we just try to get a spark, but very much could end up again, Chuba Purdy was thrown into a terrible situation whenever Casey Thompson went down with injury, and that may have, stung his confidence a lot. Throwing him into another tough situation right there, it's really tough. Again, Harburg kind of made some plays there towards the end. The dude's a football player. He wants to go out there and make plays. He wants to go out there and make the plays to win the game. But it's not necessarily to say the outcome would have been great with Chubb out there. And just thinking about him, and his mindset, I don't think that making the change there was probably the right situation. That's tough. That's tough, especially with not only Harburg missing throws, but the wide receivers getting drops. And that's been a trend all season with these drops. It's hard when Harburg is missing throws, but then when he makes the throws, the wide receivers are not giving him, a couple of them on key third downs that would have kept the drive going. And that also makes Harburg play a little timid and probably play a lot in his head too. So I see a lot of blame on Harburg, but I think there's a lot of blame to go around altogether. I do think our receivers right now are having a hard time getting open, but I also believe that Harburg immediately puts his eyes down at the slightest hint of pressure. His eyes are down. He's not scanning the field, and that leads to a throwaway, or he picks his eyes up right at the sideline and is able to try to sling one in there towards the sideline. But typically it's a throwaway, or, he fights to maybe get back to the line of scrimmage. I'm sorry. I'm just going to try to keep up with the comments here. That was not a catch. I'm sorry, but you can tell the way that he went into the catch with one arm kind of here and one here. Well, this was really the hand you needed to look at, and that hand was not on the ball. This hand was here. So there's no way that this hand kind of came around and trapped that ball while I was on the ground. That wasn't a catch. And it was pretty obvious. There was a consensus in the booth with Gene Blandino and all that stuff. Yeah, that one. And again, not to assume that wouldn't have led to a touchdown, but Michigan State in the red zone is like 66% on the season, worse than us. So, that probably there's a situation there where that either leads to 0 or 3 because, Michigan State's kicker missed one, but it is what it is. There was some extra stuff there that also, affected it. I don't care if anyone says this one's on Harburg. Duke and find it. No, I do agree. Because he was missing, he missed 2 touchdowns. He had Coleman open on one. He's just locking onto one read. If you watch just when they played the replays, he's almost just like from the second the ball is snapped, he is looking that receiver down. Whether it's 10, 15 yards, he is looking that guy down. It's not tricking anybody. And I'm not trying to take the blame off Harburg by any stretch. But I'm saying there's a lot of things that went wrong in this game. Pass blocking wasn't great. Again, the drops, like all of this stuff contributes. Harburg has to be better. I think at this point, Harburg is what he is. For some reason, I feel like Harburg has the ability to, like that rolling left cross body throw he made towards the sideline, just dots it up on third down. It was short of the line gain, of course, but he's able to roll out and make those throws, but can't make, time in the pocket, deep pass to a wide open receiver. And that to me almost makes me think, is he just thinking about it too much? Because the throws he's not supposed to make, the reason I feel like he's making those throws is because he's like, okay, no pressure on me to make this throw, right? Boom. And just slings it. These deep balls, like it's just that one he missed that was the worst miss on a deep ball this season. He missed that by like 6 yards to the right of that receiver. Just awful. And then again, that Coleman play that they pointed out to on the broadcast, he would have been running for 6 easy. So that's 2 missed touchdowns on him. So, again, the offensive struggles have a lot to do with his inability to pass, of course, but that's something we kind of know. And the other thing that I think Harburg is doing right now is he seems very skittish and very tentative to attack at the line of scrimmage on some of these QB design runs. As soon as like Michigan State's defensive line would get a push if it was designed QB run, he immediately just starts dancing, and that's not his game. Like, his game isn't dance around. His game is to use your frame and get forward and get yards. There was too many times that we ended up behind the sticks, couldn't throw the ball, end up in obvious passing third downs, 3 and outs left and right. Bushini's leg's gonna be sore tomorrow. What a terrible game to lose the punting battle, by the way. Bushini has been pretty I mean, he's been good. He's been decent this season, but that was by far his worst game. And again, in the game we needed him the most because this turned into a battle of 93, 95-yard fields for Nebraska. I don't understand Billy Kemp fair catching. I understand he's the designated fair catch guy, but who's going to tell him that he doesn't need to field everything? Like, there was a couple instances where, and I know y'all saw it. I know you are saying the same thing. Just fields inside the 5 inexplicably. Like, he even glances back. He knows where he's at on the field. I don't know if they told him to do that, but there's nobody around down there but him. What's the risk in clearing out and just letting that baby bounce? For us, 95 yards versus 99, the probability is low anyways. At least give us some space, 25, that way, I mean, they at least have a fighting chance, because otherwise the play calling backed up in the end zone, just very, very conservative, as we saw. Outside of like that first down pass, we need a lot more of that. I think we need to throw a lot of more short to intermediate passing stuff. That seemed to go out the window when Billy Kemp went down. It's almost as if there's not the ability to get open on the short routes. That short to intermediate passing game was what was kind of setting up the run, and a lot of that was to Billy Kemp. It seems like now we're trying to do too much structured, um, outs and ins and slants, and we're trying to get these routes open, whereas we just need to get yards and set up our run game. If we're doing 2-3 yard, pickups on the pass game, we'll take that. That's moving the ball forward. That's giving us a chance to be able to establish our run game. But when you're constantly playing from behind the sticks and your run game is your strength, it's going to be a bad day. There was zero threat of the pass, which just led to, Michigan State's defense, in my opinion, didn't do anything special. It was just the lack of pass threat led to them just being able to shoot fish in a barrel, key in on the run on our running backs. So, yeah. But that is a good point. I do agree to an extent, but I just think there's blame to spread, if that makes sense. I think a lot of people cost us a lot of momentum in certain situations. So, yeah, that was one thing I noticed. They came out with a lot of those trick plays, and early on, that was how they were exploiting our defense. They had that cover 2 beater up the middle. Of course, cover 2, as we know, is always, deep middle, mid to deep middle is always going to be open for the most part. And they exploited that. So that was just a good play design, good recognition of the coverage by the quarterback. And so, yeah, that first drive, I felt like since they had to use the trickery in that first drive, that was kind of, what they were going to get. But moving over to the defense, it seemed like the defense just kind of sleptwalk through this game almost. For some reason, I felt like our defense stood up the most when their backs were against the wall, and that's where they've been most of the time this season. This game, there was a lot of just punts. Michigan State, starting a drive and just kind of working their way down the field, as opposed to our defense having their backs against the wall, similar to towards the end of the game, or that stop at midfield when the terrible punt gave them the ball in great field position. Forcing turnovers, that would have, I think, one turnover would have lit a fire under their butts, but the defense just, they haven't shown consistency to force turnovers. They've had one in most of the games, and then they've had multiple turnovers twice, I believe Minnesota, and then last week. So forcing turnovers is as well as our defense has played for most of the season, they just got to get more consistent on kind of forcing turnovers and stuff like that, and just they're playing a little safe, I felt like, in this game. When we were in zone, they were finding the soft spots in the zone. When they were man, they were picking on Tommy Hill for a lot of the game in that man coverage, because he's just very hit or miss. He had a really good game last week. He made a couple plays this week, but sometimes he has a tendency, I don't know what it is, to get lost out there and just lose focus for half a second. And then that's all it takes. That quick little skinny post inside, that's a quick hitter. Half a second, you make one wrong step and that's money. And then they attacked him on the other side too. So tell everyone the quarterback can't just do everything. Protect and block. Yeah, and again, I alluded to this earlier in the season. When comparing this offense to last year's offense, Isaiah Garcia Castaneda was last year. Trey Palmer, though. Trey Palmer accounted for half of Casey Thompson's total passing yards, essentially, and 8 of his touchdowns. That is a dynamic that this team lost. And the offense last year, in my opinion, without Trey Palmer, probably isn't that good, to be honest. So that's something to take into account, and just the lack of experience at the receiver position. I feel like Malachi Coleman is in his experience. Oh, I'm sorry about my dog. In his experience, as he's gaining experience, he's starting to find little openings. Harburg's just got to start hitting them. Harburg's got to start looking for him. And again, he threw that pass, that jump ball there in the fourth. He had a good play on it, just couldn't come down with the catch. But I think Malachi Coleman's got to be a key towards this last final stretch run. I believe Wisconsin ended up losing too, if that's the case. But yeah, so let's, the pull up my game notes here. So a lot of what I saw in the very beginning of this, right, was the play calling. Okay, so coming out early, right? We come out with a run, a pass, right? Sails high, 3 and out. It was 3rd and long because we come out run, pass. Second drive, Emmett Johnson comes out with a run. Grant comes out with a run. And then run on 3rd, Harburg on 4th. Eyes come down with pressured again. And then open man, missed with a bad throw. 3rd drive to start, run. Quick hitter with 0 coverage to Fedoni. Fedoni gets down in open space. It was a lot of we were have a successful play, and then it would be 2 terrible plays to follow. Or every time we had a shot to catch lightning in a bottle and get momentum, it seemed like the next play call was so conservative. These runs up the middle weren't working. The runs up the middle were what we did for the rest of the game. The first drive the first good drive we had, what we were doing was mixing it up with a lot of motion, right? We were bringing guys across the formation. We were kind of what that does is it's trying to take the defense's eyes, get their eyes it's tricking their eyes, right? Because the defensive their job, keep their eyes on the football, right? Because you always got to know where it's going. Well, we were doing a lot of movement, bringing receivers across, handing it off to them, or bringing them across zone read. We're pulling Fedoni, blocking, and a little bit of a counter scheme. That stuff was working. I don't know why they went away from that. Towards the rest of the game, it seemed to be the one thing that was causing us to get yards. The QB draws and the zones up the middle, which just weren't working. The runs to the outside had a little bit of success, but nothing consistent. Just bad all around. Again, a lot of shooting fish in the barrel for their defense, because it was just, there was no pass at all. And that's what, defenders' eyes to get them out of position. Harburg read option, Emmett Johnson untouched in the end zone. That was the drive we scored on. Just in on that other side of the 50, especially, it was just motion. The red zone, that's what we got to do in the red zone. When we're just breaking down to normal play calling, the offense isn't good enough right now to score in the red zone like that. Second quarter, That's when they started picking on Tommy Hill. You know, he bit on the fake wide receiver pass. Then the safety has to choose between two people because he's out there on an island. He has a guy running up the left side. He has a guy running up the right side. He gets over and makes that tackle. Next play, they go after Tommy Hill again on that quick slant skinny post for the touchdown. Then the defense came out, and that's when they played to get their backs against the wall at the midfield. And that's when I thought maybe this defense was going to catch a little bit of momentum, you know, make a big stop, come out fired up, see what they can do from there. The defense did get fired up, but the offense wasn't able to help them at all. Defense, for what it was worth, played better than the offense. But, you know, it's hard to blame the defense for this at all. It's just, you know, I'm nitpicking, I understand, but it just seemed like they didn't have the same fire intensity that they usually do. For some reason, Michigan State, who's in a state of turmoil, it could be because senior day, I don't know. They just seemed like they came out fired up and we just came out flat. And this team isn't good enough to overlook anybody, honestly. So right now it's tough sledding, but I'm curious too to know y'all's opinions on how that you know, do y'all believe the officiating directly led to that loss? You know, what's your thoughts on that? I'm curious to take opinions because again, there's a lot of differing stuff on Twitter and stuff, but I feel like people just say that because they don't want to blame the officials and they don't think those two things are mutually exclusive, right? They don't think you can say the officials were bad enough to determine the outcome of the game. That doesn't completely absolve the team. You know, it's just saying the team definitely, like, we criticize the team and wins too, right? This is no different. If those calls are different and we win this game, we're still having the same conversation about these offensive woes and stuff like that. It changes nothing. So both can be true. And that's the point I'm trying to get at. I firmly believe, you know, that pass interference again, that leads to three, at least three, in my opinion. So, all right, we'll get into the numbers a little bit here. At one point in the fourth quarter, I know they flashed them up, and it was 288 yards to 266. Now, Michigan State's offense this year has not been very good. I believe last game was the first game they went over a couple hundred yards passing. I think that was last game. But let me pull up the numbers here on this game just to look at the final statistics. Dude, why is this so complicated to find? Sorry, yeah. All right, Hauser, 13 for 20, 165 yards, 8.3 average. There was one point where he had 6 completions for like 130 yards or something like that. Harburg, 12 for 28, 129, 4.6 yard average, 2 picks, no touchdowns. Just horrible. Emmett Johnson, 13 carries, 57 yards. When he got the ball, was really good. I love what we're getting from Emmett Johnson. Fleeks, 4.8 per carry, but only had 4 touches. Jalen Lloyd, coming off the big play touchdown, he had 2 total yards. He had 1 carry for 6 yards and then 1 catch for -4. Just really need to get these guys who are, you know, who are making the plays, try to find creative ways to get them the ball. I don't think these guys right now are able to just operate on their route running enough to get an opening. So it's got to be schematically. And right now our scheme just seems a little too basic. One thing I will say, the defense still, they're flying to the ball, getting a lot of hats on the ball. Tackling in this game wasn't quite as good, but still was pretty good. Reimer, 7 total tackles, 2 solos, you know, half a sack, TFL. What a game by him. You know, Nash Hutmacher was just causing disruptions in the middle like he normally does. Phelan Sanford, huge pass breakup on the right side for him. Phelan Sanford made a couple of big plays. So I'm really liking what I'm seeing from those guys. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the defense rebounds next week because they are going to need to really reset quick off of that one because Maryland is a dynamic offense and a little worrisome, in my opinion, with their dynamicism, because we're getting these quarterbacks that aren't really, I mean, they can run, but these quarterbacks that aren't really running threats are kind of having some success on occasion, just because we can't seem to consistently generate a pass rush, or when we do generate a pass rush, it seems like they are able to kind of float out to the right. We're not containing very well. And against Maryland, I think we're really going to have to throw some contains on and try to figure out how to keep Tagovailoa in the pocket. The calls were consistently good throughout. I believe we would have won Michigan State with 1 touchdown. Yeah. And another thing that people don't understand about the calls, looking at them in a vacuum, right? We see these calls and we see what they led to and what they potentially took away. Well, people don't also account the momentum that takes away, right? You get a stop there. Let's say we get a stop, hold them to 3 on that one. That ended up being a touchdown, right? Momentum flips, right? Or at least you catch some momentum there, as opposed to the touchdown, which is completely deflating. At that point, I saw on Twitter just everybody going, ball game, game over, left and right, just tweet after tweet. The players also felt deflated, right? First off, saying ball game with, 7 minutes to go, just kind of, not the brightest in my opinion, but still, it's deflating. It's deflating for the defense because they feel like they played that well enough. It was a really good throw and catch that wasn't on the defense at all. Just a really good throw, not a really good catch. A really good throw and effort. I have no idea how that stood. I was 99% sure that was going to get overturned, but unfortunate, man. The way I feel like if that call is for us, it goes the other way. But breaks of the game, and then the big one again, having the ball at midfield, 19 seconds left, and they call that a fumble when his arm's going forward. 19 seconds left's a lot of time at midfield with a chance to, get Alvano on there. Alvano's got a leg, man. He had 55. He had the wind in his back, I understand, but he had 55. That would have been good for probably 62. He has a leg. He is confident in his leg. All we needed was about 15, 20 more yards. And with how Michigan State was playing the pass in that one, I firmly believe we could have got a couple maybe sideline passes or a deep middle pass to at least give him a shot, give him a chance to come in there and tie that up. Yeah, that just topped it all off at the end of there, and especially seeing the replay after, that next play had been run. It's just really, really bad all around. Super frustrating. But looking forward still, Wisconsin, I think Wisconsin ended up losing today. Well, for what it's worth, Penn State's up 14-0 on Maryland. So Maryland might be on a downward slide. Well, they are on a downward slide, but it seems like they might still stay in that downward slide. But yeah, because Penn State's actually really, really having a lot of success for them over them today. Let's look at let's see what Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin lost today. Yeah, 20-14 to Indiana. And then, like I said, Maryland's losing. I still, Big Ten West is going to be really tough, of course. There's still path naturally, but you don't control your own destiny anymore, which is rough. You're losing the tiebreaker to Minnesota. But looking at this game, still big picture right now, I think the team is what it is, of course. This offense is what it is. I don't think we're going to get anything special the rest of the year from this offense. I think we can pretty much just chop that one in the bag and understand that our defense is going to have to show up every game, and our defense is probably going to have to force some turnovers every game because we're going to make mistakes. The offense is going to look anemic, and the play calling is going to be what it's been. However, looking at big picture, this team seems to be a quarterback away from being Big Ten West, Big Ten West champions. I mean, this team with a better quarterback play, I believe, is in the driver's seat of the Big Ten West. So the focus, the focus this offseason has to be getting a portal QB. There's this QB room is probably one of the worst we've had in a long time, and that's saying a lot. So portal QB has to happen. These guys are going to get more experience again as the season goes along. Too, I feel like Emmett Johnson's getting stronger and stronger as the season goes along. Even when the offense isn't helping him by having a pass game, he's still able to churn out yards. Again, he averaged 4.4 a carry in a game where the team, even Harburg averaged like 2 yards a carry, something like that, and he even had the big run. So even in a game where the run game was pretty much thwarted, he stepped up, and had a game. The 6-yard line almost tackled us twice in a row, though. Harburg tripped over it, and then Emmett Johnson tripped over it, stumbled, kept his balance in the end zone. So I think what we really need to see from this offense is we got to try to just get the ball in our playmakers' hands. Right now, it's a lot of handoffs, Harburg keeps, handoffs, Harburg keeps. There is right now no more risk in just trying to get the ball in Jalen Lloyd's hands and Josh Fleek's hands more. Do something. We're running screens with Alex Bullock, and no knock on him, but we got to get these speedsters out there in space and get them going, because Fedoni missed a block on that, so that wasn't on him, but because Fedoni missed a block, and they were able to kind of bottle that one up. But it's just there's some dynamic guys on this team that need to just operate in space, and we're not getting with space. Fleeks, when we're handed off to him to the outside, it's just getting strung out, and he has nowhere to go. Right? There's defenders lined up across. There's nowhere to go. The creativity in the play calling just has to improve, and I don't know who that starts with. I don't know if Satterfield is just calling his own game. I don't know if Rule has any part in the play calling, or if he comes in at any point and just tries to advise what he wants to do offensively. But it's just right now, like I said, I don't feel like it can get any worse. So what's the risk in running Fleeks? Or getting him in space? What's the risk in this stuff? Hopefully Billy Kemp is well enough next week, considering he was questionable coming into the game, was on the field, fair catching. Hopefully Billy Kemp's is able to come back next week. I think Billy Kemp really, in a small way, opens this offense up a little bit, because again, he opens up that short intermediate pass game. He's really good at getting open on those short routes, because he is quick, he is shifty, he's got that low center of gravity, so he can break down and come out of his breaks a lot quicker than some of these defensive backs. And if Harburg can just get the timing down with him and keep the timing down with him, just get some yards and just move forward and stop being in these obvious passing downs, because right now that's been the issue. That's been the issue with his offense for a few weeks, is when we're able to come out, we're able to get nickel and dime yards and put drives together. Our drives are long for a reason. They're success, but our drives that don't succeed are short, very short, and there's a reason for that. All right. Definitely have a fast receiving core. Michigan State will be dangerous in the future. Yeah, that was a key point the last few weeks too. I just think, still looking at this thing, 11 players that were on the opening day roster are of our 11 starters that were there offensively to start the season. Only 3 are starters as of last week. There's a couple more who were coming back and stuff like that, but most predictions coming into the season were 7 wins, right? 6-7 wins. And if you would have told us we would have 3 of our 11 week 1 starters for a portion of the season and have this many people out and be down to this many freshmen and our backup QB, I think a lot of us would have took where we're at right now. But still, it's just the emotion of this loss, just knowing that we could be a step ahead. It's hard to look at, forward now, but we have no choice. I mean, it's Matt Rule's first year. We have to just keep perspective. And I think the fact that we're actually playing for something this late in the season is getting lost on a lot of us. And that's that's leading to the emotion. So I think it's a good thing that we're feeling this emotion, of course, because it means we're playing for something. Before, the emotion was just like, I felt like if we won, it's like, okay, well, we're not going to get much credit for that. We should have won, but the way we were losing just hurt so much worse. And that was the reason for the emotion before. But now it's because there's something on the line. And it's still good that we have that. I still want to keep that in perspective too for everybody, because that is a very important part of this. All right, so let me just go ahead and I'm just going to go to a quick sponsor here. Just give me about 15, 20 seconds. So here at the Voice of College Football, we are partnered with Ticket Smarter. They have a couple promo codes for you to use if you want to get tickets to any games. Use code BIG for $10 off purchase of $100, or promo code BIG20 for $20 off purchase at least $300 at Ticket Smarter. So, try to knock off some of those ticketing fees and stuff like that. So, yep, go check it out. See if the codes can give you a better deal than you'll find elsewhere, and shop smarter at Ticket Smarter. All right. Thank y'all for hashtag ad and sticking with me through that. Where do we go from here is the question. Well, I think the biggest thing is the defense has to play with intensity. Any game where the defense doesn't play with fire and tenacity, we're probably going to lose. Michigan State, I don't think Michigan State has talent, right? But the situation they're in is dire, to put it lightly, right? They do have talent, but with Wisconsin and Iowa coming up on the schedule, I know Iowa's offense is abysmal too, right? But they have a good defense. We very well, so Maryland, Iowa, Wisconsin, there is a small, I'm gonna leave it a small possibility that we lose all three of those games with the way our offense played today and with the way our defense played today, because of the Michigan State, who Michigan State is. I do think they play with a little extra intensity for senior day, but that's got to change, because bowl eligibility is right there, and it would be a huge, huge loss for them to miss. I don't expect us to miss bowl eligibility again. Hopefully we get it next week versus Maryland, but it definitely puts us in a much, a little bit more stressful situation, because I thought Michigan State was the one that we definitely needed to have for sure. But again, I believe in this team. I believe in this team's grit. I believe in this defense. They've shown us more often than they haven't what they're built of and what they're made of. And again, when they needed to make stops in this game, they made stops, right? Albeit Michigan State had Scott Frost level time management there towards the end. What in God's name are they doing passing so much? With 4 minutes left in a 2-possession game, they come out pass, and then Nebraska scores and they come out deep pass. It's questionable, but it gave us an opportunity there with the door open, and we didn't take the opportunity. So very, very, like I said, there's a lot of finger pointing to go around, but this is one of those where, I think Matt Rule, of course I want to listen to his post-game press conference, but I think Matt Rule will keep these guys level-headed. I think they'll be able to mentally reset and kind of get it, at least the response will be well. I think that's the biggest, how we come out in that first quarter of the next game against Maryland, I think is going to be indicative of how the rest of the season goes, because that's going to show our ability to mentally reset off of a, gutting loss like this. For what it was a gut punch. Players, go into that knowing that, hey, we didn't play well, but also we still had an opportunity to win this game. And for reasons in and out of our control, that was taken away. So, but with the stretch run the way it is and the way the back half for a schedule set up, this has to be the quick reset. Like, they have to just be able to go in there, simmer on it today. Monday comes around, practice, reset, game plan, and get after Maryland. Maryland, with the way they're playing today, might be our best shot at bowl eligibility. So it's still on the table. Like I said, we're right there, knocking on the door. And I think a lot of us will be happy with that for sure. It would be hard to say that we would be upset with a bowl game, no matter what. And then going into the next season, like we said, the Matt Rule system was never winning in year one. It's building you winning in years 2 and 3, but we need him to do a better job scouting quarterbacks because this next, of course, the next decision he makes in the portal might be the biggest in regards to what this team is going to look like in the next 2 to 3 years. I don't know if y'all saw our schedule next year towards the back half of the schedule. It's ugly. It's let me pull it up here. Sorry. I actually think I got it right here. So, the Big 10, I think they're still upset with us about all the COVID stuff because they did not do us any favors. All right, the back half of next year's schedule at Ohio State, UCLA and Lincoln, at USC, Wisconsin and Lincoln, at Iowa. So, my dog, I apologize. He is loud. The portal QB that we go after this offseason, he has to hit. And Matt Rule did a lot of things right this offseason, scouting the QB, and the QB he handpicked for this team was probably the worst of it. Was the one big bad decision he made. And that is hurting us right now. I believe this team is, as we all do, a quarterback away from probably 9-10 wins. 9. We'll say 9. We'll just be reasonable. We'll say 9. It's tough. It's a tough pill to swallow. But again, I like where we're at. The defense is the toughest thing to build. And when our defense, another perspective thing, when our defense plays bad this year, it's still much better than our defense played most of the time last year. So stick with us. The emotion is hot right now. I get it. The officiating, the way it went down, the way it ended, it's almost like it hurt more because we had a shot there at the end. Whereas when people were chalking it up with at a 10-point game with 6 minutes to go, I feel like that just, it gave us hope there at the end just to get crushed. It felt like old times. But we got to understand this is a mental reset. This is a new team. This isn't the Scott Frost team of old. So we're going to be all right. Maryland coming up next week. I do believe Maryland, like I said, they are a dynamic offense, but they're on a downward trajectory. They haven't been able to play very well recently either, and they might get drubbed by Penn State. So Maryland is going to be the key game because if you drop to Maryland, Wisconsin, and Iowa get a lot tougher. What's good, Jackson? Well, I don't know if you checked out the game, Jackson. What was your thoughts on those calls? If you didn't, go check them out. Go check them out. I texted Mark after just to let him know that we got hosed, so that way he doesn't go in thinking that we lost. No, I'm just kidding. Really want to see Alvano get a shot there at the end, but yeah, it's yeah. I don't know how Husker Nation's feeling about the bowl game or either any of that, but trying to mentally reset again. So back to the running game again, just because I don't think enough attention. Our offensive line play has improved, of course, but I don't think enough attention is being given to just the lack of running lanes either. Against some of these defensive lines that I feel like we should be pushing around a little bit more, it's very inconsistent. Raiola, of course, I think he's doing a good job with the injuries he's had and stuff like that. But Grant Bricks watch is going to be probably the biggest key to this offseason. Grant Bricks, of course, big shot that we could land him at this point. I don't know what the crystal balls are saying. Of course, we parked the semi out in front of his high school, and that it seemed to have got a couple crystal balls our way. It seemed like he was showing interest there. A little bit of a lean to Kansas State right now, but if Grant Bricks can get in the wagon here, that could serve a lot of momentum for this offensive line going into next year. And with the way Raiola, I want to caution everybody to just jump on the offensive line, because with the way Raiola has dealt with, the injuries, the way Raiola has, kind of improved this offensive line year over year. He was much maligned last year. I don't know, there was a lot of heat on him because the people were thinking he was kept just to recruit Dylan, but I I see a lot of heat on the offensive line, and I understand that they're not playing up to their best, but a lot of injuries on this offensive line as well. We're using that for the receiver room and stuff like that. So I just think there's a lot of blame to go around, but there's a lot of things to be positive about still. Um, we can point at one thing on the offense right now that is holding this offense back from points. Of course, the quarterback position. I get the finger pointing. There's other places to go, but it starts at the quarterback position. A quarterback with ability to pass, even with this team, would score more points than Harburg, of course. Um, so it is a little bit nice to be able to point at one thing that we think could lead to more wins, as opposed to coming into the season, it was a mess, right? We could point everywhere: offense, defense, turnovers, penalties, special teams, everything. We didn't have a field goal kicker. So everybody keep that in mind going into next week. Everybody enjoy the rest of your Saturday games if you are okay enough and well enough to watch them after that gut punch again. And but keep hope alive. Everything that we want is still in front of us. Bowl game, bowl eligibility still right there. This team has a shot at 8 wins. So I think a lot of us would have took that at the beginning of the season. And as much as this one hurts, mentally reset as a fan base too, and just let's look at the big picture. We are upset here because of because we're playing for something in November, and we're not used to that. We're not in most recent years. It's like we're trying to play spoiler. We're trying to just get like, hey, we want our first top 25 win in this amount of years. Hey, we want to win a 1-score game, right? That was our goals. Here are our goals, coming into this week. Big Ten West is right there on the table. Bowl game is right there on the table. Perspective. Matt Rule is doing a lot with this team, a lot of good with this team. So it hurts, but like I said, let's just keep big picture in mind. He has shown the ability to develop players, and he's shown it already this year, in my opinion. So, all right, guys. Well, I am going to hop off here. Again, for those who hopped in late or don't know who I am, my name is Justin Adams. I am the live post-game host here at the Voice of College Football. I am also over on Cheesy Corn Sports on YouTube, fantasy football. 2 hours before the games on Sundays. Y'all can join us there tomorrow. We do live call-ins. We'll answer starts. We talk betting. We just kind of hang out and talk football. So you can hop on over there. And then, of course, our live streams with Greg and Mark Thursdays. They have moved to 5 p.m. Eastern because of the college football playoff ceremony on Tuesdays. So if you see those, if you don't see those on Tuesdays, that's because they've been moved to Thursdays. So keep your eye out for those. We'll break down the Maryland game more in depth. We'll recap this game, and then, get you kind of prepped up for the next week, and hopefully a better one next week. So we have points all that should bode well for next year with young players getting much. Exactly, and I think that's one silver lining to a lot of these injuries is how much valuable playing time these young guys are getting, and we're also in the last 3 weeks, right? So there's another thing that we need. I'm sorry, my audio interface is just reflecting the sun right into my eyes. Yeah, like I said, they're getting experience. I was gonna say something. I got ADHD, and the sun just went in my eyes. But it's. Oh yeah, sorry. 3 weeks left in the season, which means a lot of these guys that haven't played necessarily because of red shirts or not wanting to burn their red shirts, this is the time we can throw them in there. There's no risk of burning their red shirts if they come in and play well now. 3 weeks left in the season. This is the time to break those guys out and let's see what they got. Get them some experience too. Again, we don't have much to lose. So if they're not burning their red shirts, why not give them a shot? Throw them out there, give them a shot. Let's see what they got. See if we can get a spark, ride the hot hand, and then going into the next year, identify some of the guys that will be playmakers on this team. Malachi Coleman, he's a big play waiting to happen. He's going to start coming down with some of these balls. Hopefully Harburg looks at the film to see how many times he was open and could have got him. He's a handful out there. Again, they had to hold, grab him all game, take him out completely to keep him from catching the ball. So lot to look forward to. And again, be on the lookout for those young guys that may come in here that didn't come in early in the season because they didn't want to burn red shirts. So the watch for the West Division, pretty wild. Yeah, it is. It is. So, and we're in it. So let's be happy about that. All right, everybody. I will see y'all on the Thursday live stream. If not there, catch me on the post game next week. I might bring somebody on with me, if not a Maryland person, just another college football person, so we can talk the game a little more in depth. Maybe another Husker channel, or try to get somebody on here so we could just have a couple of perspectives for y'all. So, all right, everybody, I appreciate you hopping on with me as always. Shout out to everybody who's in here every week with me, and have a great rest of y'all's weekend, and we will see you next week for the Maryland preview. All right, peace.